It was a school holiday for 7-year-old Nitarshan. He lived in Nithipuram, a small village near Mangalam in northern Sri Lanka. That morning, he went with his grandfather to his aunt's house in Mullai Veethi for a family function. When they ran out of firewood, his grandfather grabbed an axe and went to gather some from a nearby field. Nitarshan followed, curious and full of energy. In the dry field, he spotted something strange. A round, rusted metal object, alien looking. It was a 40mm unexploded shell, caught once in a farmer's plough, then left at the edge of the field. With a childlike curiosity, Nitarshan picked it up. He showed it to his grandfather as if it were a treasure. The old man had seen too many shells, too many mines. He knew the danger instantly. He told Nitarshan to put it down. Instead, the boy hurled it playfully toward a tree. The explosion shattered the silence. Shrapnel flew in all directions. It struck Nitarshan across his body. One piece pierced just below his right eye. Others cut his torso and limbs. Before his grandfather could reach him, he collapsed into a pool of blood. Several fragments had entered his brain. He was unconscious. An explosive device once used to kill during the brutal war had waited in the soil like a seed of hatred, waiting to maim a child. When the week visited, his mother, Parthipan Tenuja, a former rebel fighter, told the story. Nitarshan is partially paralyzed, blind in his left eye. He rests on his mother's lap. Sometimes he closes his eyes, sometimes he gazes blankly. Her hands tell another story. Missing fingers, deep scars. The war may be over, but the land still remembers. Sri Lanka, a tiny drop in the vast Indian Ocean. The island's shape looks like a falling droplet frozen in time, a haunting metaphor for decades of death, destruction, and displacement. For Indians, the island has always carried emotion, from the burning of Lanka in the Ramayana to the spread of Buddhism under Emperor Ashoka. Sri Lanka has existed in India's heart. But no event in recent memory hit as hard as the war that ended in 2009. A 4-phase armed conflict between the Sinhala majoritarian government and the Liberation Tigers of Tamil Eelam, or LTTE. A guerrilla force fighting for an independent state, Tamil Eelam. India, bound by geography, history, culture, could never stay distant. Soldiers were sent as part of the Indian peacekeeping force. Hundreds lost. A prime minister assassinated. Refugees crossed the narrow Pork Strait, carrying stories of loss, hunger, and suffering. A humanitarian crisis on India's very doorstep. 3 decades of violence left deep marks on Indian politics too. And 15 years later, the guns are silent. The dream of an independent state has died. War victims still manage trauma. Families of the missing know the disappeared will not return. Many IDPs and refugees have returned home, trying to rebuild, but the spectre of war lurks beneath the soil. When the fighting ended, more than 1.5 million landmines and unexploded ordnances contaminated the north and the east. Even today, explosive remnants of war refuse to die. Hidden bombs continue to injure. Survivors, civilians, former fighters, even deminers live with scars, physical and psychological. Yet, many rise above it all, standing tall, disabled but not defeated. Across scarred landscapes, humanitarian teams work tirelessly, scanning the ground inch by inch. It is a painstaking process, like an archaeological dig, but not to unearth history, to erase it. Landmines still threaten children, wildlife, farmers unable to till their lands, fishermen who fear the shore. The week travelled along the former front lines in the north, places where fierce battles once raged, tracing invisible borders of war. Former rivals now work side by side, undoing the dark legacy of war. For them, the enemy is no longer each other. It is the weapons that once tore their world apart. We reach Jaffna. Almost half of Sri Lanka's landmines were laid here by the Sri Lankan army, the LTTE, the IPKF, to protect camps, front lines. Jaffna is also the cultural capital of Sri Lankan Tamils. Many early events that shaped the LTTE's armed insurgency happened here. Until 1995, the LTTE controlled the peninsula, making it the de facto capital of Tamil Eram. The war history explains the minefields. Mines were used since the first Eram war, but they grew massively during Operation Pavan in 1987 and again in 2006 at the start of the Fourth Eram War. Mines served three purposes: early warning, inflicting damage near front lines, and protecting infrastructure. Only the side that laid them knew the exact mine lines, marked in their own ways. Fields were a mix of anti-personnel and anti-vehicle mines. Anti-personnel mines were buried 1 to 5 centimeters below the surface. Even 7 kilos of pressure could set them off. The goal? Not always to kill, but to maim. Incapacitate soldiers. Slow enemy advances. Trip strings, directional mines, fragmentation claymores, all part of the arsenal. We are now on a motorboat heading to Mantiu. The island is now under clearance by the Halo Trust. The Halo Trust is the world's largest humanitarian demining organization. They work in former and active conflict zones, removing landmines and unexploded ordnance. In Sri Lanka, they began operations in 2002 during a ceasefire between the government and the LTTE.
I think for us here, specifically in Sri Lanka, it very much captures those main themes from the Halo Trust mission statement. Our business is to clear the land. It is to do that in a safe and efficient way, in line with the international mine action standards, and support the restoration of the livelihoods for both returning IDPs and other communities. And to ultimately achieve completion here and remove the remaining mine threats.
A retired British colonel, Hugh gives us an overview of Halo's 2 decades of work. Most of their efforts focus on Tamil majority regions. Most of the workforce comes from the same community. In July 2025, Halo marked a milestone: 300,000 mines cleared. At its peak, over 1,200 locals were employed. But today, fewer than 1,000 remain due to funding cuts and attrition. Many workers were once displaced or affected by the war themselves. We step carefully, alert, as if entering an active conflict zone. Lines of red painted sticks are pegged into the soil. Thick bushes hide the operation from view. A line of deminers walk towards shade. Tarpaulins cover the rest area. We speak with some women. 36-year-old Tasitharan Kalai Selvi smiles.
நாங்கள் மைன்ஸ் கிளியர் பண்ணி இடங்களை கொடுக்க போரால் பாதிக்கப்பட்டு இடம்பெயர்ந்து போயிருந்தவங்க வந்து இப்போ கேம்பளியே இருந்து வந்து திருப்பி மீள் குடியேற்றம் செய்கிறாங்க. செய்து தங்கட நிலம்னு சொல்லி இப்போ வீட்டு திட்டம் எல்லாம் நிறைய பேருக்கு வந்து வீடெல்லாம் கட்டியிருக்கிறாங்க. மற்றது தங்களோட வயல் வேலை செய்கிறாங்க. தங்களோட சொந்த நிலம் மட்டும் தாங்க இருக்கிறாங்க.
Back in the field, another woman, Indira Priyadarshini, takes out her metal detector and sweeps the sand, centimeter by centimeter. A strong signal. She marks it with a red chip and scrapes the soil carefully. Often it is scrap metal, sometimes a stone, but every signal must be treated as deadly. The area is cleared first by bush cutters, making scanning easier. Modern landmines often contain minimal metal to evade detection. Next, we drive toward Muhammalai, the largest minefield in Sri Lanka, strategically vital. A narrow strip between Jaffna Lagoon in the west and the Bay of Bengal in the east, the LTTE's main defense line until the final phase of the war. Mines stretched from Nagarkoil in the east to Kilali in the west. Muhammalai lay in the middle. If the Sri Lankan army had broken this line, they would gain access to Elephant Pass, a gateway into the Vanni from the north. Here, Halo's mechanical demining teams take over. The ride through the contaminated zone feels unsettling. What was once a coconut farm became a front line. LTTE cement trenches and the Sri Lankan army's triple defense lines still scar the terrain. Today, livestock graze parts of land still awaiting clearance. The minefield gave the LTTE advantage. Static front line. A few thousand rebels against a much larger army. Mechanical demining works best here. Marshy, open fields. An armored excavator lifts soil, drops it into a sifting machine. Mud, stones, metallic fragments, all separated for inspection. Muhammalai remains the densest minefield in the country. Women now lead many operations. Cleared land has already been reclaimed by families who once fled the war. The next morning, we are at Halo's operations base in Kokkuthodavai, a small village south of Mullaitivu. From here, Halo manages demining operations in the Andankulam forest, once an LTTE stronghold. Tunnels, bunkers, a battleground during the fighting with the Indian peacekeeping force. At dawn, deminers line up for their daily drill. Trucks wait nearby. Men and women in cargo trousers and black industrial boots listen as safety protocols are repeated again and again. They collect their tools. Those assigned specialized tasks queue at the storeroom. Every team has a trained medical responder. Every month, a mock medivac drill. No room for complacency. As the trucks roll out in the half light of dawn, the discipline feels almost military, but the mission is different. Nobody is fighting a war, they are undoing it. The road into the Andangulam jungle is broken and waterlogged. Entry is restricted. Landmines still lie beneath the soil. Red sticks line both sides of the road, a warning that stands out against the green. The jungle feels ancient. Thick canopy, creepers wrapped around old trees, new growth pushing through scars left by war. For years, LTTE fighters hid here until the final phase of the war. Deeper inside, the road disappears. The drizzle turns the track into slippery clay. At a control point, the day's operations are coordinated. The danger is invisible, buried and unpredictable. Here, the red sticks are guardians. During the war, breaching minefields required military EOD teams, engineering units, sappers trained to locate and disarm explosives. The military also used Bangalore torpedoes. These were explosive charges designed to clear mines in seconds. First developed in Bengaluru in 1912, later used across the world. Humanitarian demining is different. It is slow, methodical, and unforgiving. Every inch of a confirmed hazardous area must be cleared. No shortcuts. Men and women in identical blue protective gear move centimeter by centimeter, eyes fixed on the ground, ears tuned to metal detectors. Despite wildlife risks, their focus never shifts. A radio crackles. Vegetation clearance has uncovered a rocket-propelled grenade. Moments later, another call. A Rangan mine has been detected. We move to the mine site. Access is restricted here. Even with protective gear, no one untrained is allowed close. Through a lens, the mine is visible. Half buried, ordinary, almost harmless in appearance. The removal is slow, precise, and ritual-like. The detonator is separated and the explosive is sealed in a red container, later to be handed to the Sri Lankan army for controlled destruction. Next, the RPG site. A rusted shell lies under damp leaves. It recalls earlier tragedies, a reminder of what happens when danger is not recognized. A long whistle cuts through the forest. Deminers converge on the assembly point. A paramedic opens a large medical kit, supplies laid out. A stretcher arrives, a simulated injury, a prosthetic hand, but no one treats it lightly. First aid begins immediately. Reassurance, tourniquet, bandage, IV line. Within minutes, the patient is moved towards the ambulance. It is only a drill, but the threat is real. In demining, accidents are never ruled out. That is why these exercises are treated as real emergencies. These responders understand the stakes. They have seen worse. In the golden hour after an injury, they are the difference between life and death. On the way back, something small catches the eye. Yellow wooden pegs stuck into the soil. Black letters on each one. These mark where mines were recovered. Most carry the same name, Rangan. They form a wavering line through the jungle. The old front line where the LTTE and the Sri Lankan army once faced each other. Further ahead, we stop at the remains of an LTTE bunker. Even in ruins, its scale surprises. A network of tunnels connects multiple bunkers, multiple entry and exit points, their inner walls still tiled. Once, this underground network rivaled modern infrastructure. Today, it is a bat-infested ruin. Few people ever see this place, mostly elephants and wild boars. Sometimes they step on owned mines. Sometimes they lose limbs. Another unseen cost of war. Near Vanni Vilangulam, we visit another site. Once a front line after the LTTE captured Mangulam in 1992, a heartland until the final phase of the war. Field Operations Manager Naguleshwari Nachimuttu meets us at the control point. At the site entrance, recovered explosives are stacked neatly, collected from the land already cleared. Under the teak canopy, we move slowly. 3 Sri Lankan Army EOD soldiers arrive to destroy the mines. This plantation once witnessed bloodshed. Now it shelters deminers. The same soil that once shook with shell fire now holds roots and recovery. Former enemies work together here to heal the land. An EOD officer in a blast suit gathers rugged mines into a black bucket. He carries them to a destruction pit. A warning call. And then when we approach, a crater remains. With each controlled explosion, lives are saved. Another patch of land reclaimed. The EOD team packs up and moves on. Accurate data is crucial, but much remains unreleased. Instead, deminers rely on former LTTE fighters, men who once buried the mines, now pointing to where the lines ran. Their memories are imperfect, but often they are the only maps left. This lack of data is one of the biggest obstacles to clearing Sri Lanka. According to the National Mine Action Centre, 1,332 square kilometers were contaminated after the war, including suspected hazardous areas. Today, about 22 square kilometers remain. 5 agencies together clear around 10 square kilometers a year, less than 1 square kilometer a month. The work continues, slow, deliberate, and life-saving. Sri Lanka is committed to becoming mine-free by 2028. The pledge was made after joining the Mine Ban Convention in 2017, but the deadline is slipping. At the current pace, clearance targets will not be met. The National Mine Action Centre oversees demining in Sri Lanka. Its director, M.M. Naimuddin, is clear.
And we have reviewed the completion strategy, and of course, and the GICHT, and you know that Geneva International Humanitarian Demining Agency, and they are the major, development partner of Sri Lanka Mine Action Program, and under the leadership of GICHT, and we had a review, and according to that review, 2028 is a very difficult task, and it is almost impossible to complete the mine action program in Sri Lanka.
So far, over 1,200 square kilometers of land have been cleared. For many families, that has meant a chance to return home. At Mohamalai, Rasadurai Rajendran stands on his land again. He fled 22 years ago after the LTTE ordered families to leave. His old house is gone. A small new structure stands in its place. The farm is quiet now. No gunfire, only the sound of birds.
பாம்பு உங்களை வேலை செய்ய செய்ய காட்டில் இருக்கிற பாம்பு இருக்குது, வருங்கள், இரவில் வருங்கள்.
இது காடு தானே?
காடு
காடு அதற்கு வீடு தானே இது. ஸோ சந்தோஷமாக இருக்கீங்க வீட்டில்?
ஓ, எங்களுக்கு இப்போ ஒரு இதான இது இல்லை. நாங்கள் இடம்பெயர்ந்து போய் தான் கஷ்டப்பட்ட நாங்கள் இருக்கிற எத்தனை பேர்ட்ட வீடு கழுவி துப்புரவு செய்து நாங்கள் திருத்தி இருக்கிறது. பேர் 6 மாதம் போக நீங்கள் எழும்புங்க, எங்களுக்கு வீடு வேணும்னா பேருந்து எழும்பி அடுத்த வீடு தண்டது. அப்படியே கடவுளே எத்தனை வீடு மாறி இருப்போம்.
Further west, near Mannar, is Isaimalai Thalavu. Retired police officer Lal Senaviratne lives here now. His family home is a small homestay.
At that time there was a school around 250 students. You can imagine if the 250 students in Sinhala, how many families there should be.
In 1985, his family fled. Lal joined the police soon after. During the war, he served across the Vanni and the east. He saw men killed by mines and booby traps. After the war, his land was demined twice. Each time, hundreds of mines were found. Even recently, more devices were discovered. MAG later removed them.
So now I am free. My mind is free that there is no mines. Otherwise, I am always when I am stepping into the land, so I am always under threat whether I can come back or whether I can lift my leg again.
In Nithipuram, there are more landmine victims. One of them is Murugesh Pushparasa. He is 45 years old, a former LTTE fighter. He was 19 when he was injured during Operation JSC Kuruvi in 1997.
இது ஒரு லைன் ஒன்று இருந்தது. அந்த லைனில் கிளியர் பண்ண போக்கில் வேறு பொடியில் நின்றது. கேட்குள்ள தான் போனோம். அது பச்சை டப்பி என்ற அப்படித்தான் இருக்கும்.
Dappi is the LTTE's term for the Army's P4 mine. His comrades carried him on a motorbike. They took him to an ICRC hospital. He lost his right lower leg. Today, Murugesh works as a cook in a small hotel. He pauses often while speaking. His wish is simple, a tricycle with handbrakes, so he can move on his own. Murugesh is Tenuja's brother-in-law. Tenuja's own past goes back further. At 16, she joined the LTT, the Iyakkam. She knew the risks. She accepted them. Along the way, she saw death. She surrendered at 19.
அப்போ அம்மாக்களுக்கு சொன்னது நான் இப்போ அறிவித்து இப்படி போராட்டத்தில் இருந்தாங்க எல்லாரும் வந்து சரண்டராங்கன்னு அறிவிக்கக்குள்ள என்னை விட சின்ன படிக்கணும் அந்த ஒரு தம்பி ஒன்று சொன்னேன். அவையெல்லாம் எங்களை விட சின்ன ஆக்கள். அப்போ அதையே நான் அம்மாக்களோட விட்டுட்டு நீங்கள் அது சின்ன படிக்கலானே நம்ப மாட்டாங்கன்றதால அவங்கள விட்டுட்டு நாங்கள் 3 பேர் சரண்டர் ஆகினாங்க. எங்களோட குடும்பத்தில் வந்த அதை நான் இடையில நின்ற புள்ளியிலையும் போய் கூட்டி கொண்டு வந்தேன். 3 பேரும் சரண்டர் ஆகினாங்க. சரண்டர் ஆகிக்க அம்மாக்களை சொன்னது எங்களை இப்போ சுட்டாலே எங்களை இப்படி முகாமுக்கு கொண்டு போவாங்க அப்படியெல்லாம் எங்களுக்கு எண்ணம் இருக்கையில இன்னும் எங்களை கொண்டே வச்சு சுடுவான், வேற என்ன செய்வானன்றதுதான். அப்படி சுட்டா நீங்கள்லாம் எங்களுடைய அம்மா அப்பாண்டு வராதீங்க, இருக்கிற தம்பி அண்ணாக்களையாவது கொண்டு உள்ள போங்க நீங்க என்றுதான் கொண்டு போனது. ஆனால் அதில் நாங்கள் சரண்டராகி போயிருக்க சில நல்ல ஆமியும் இருந்தான். அப்போ அதில் வயசு கேட்டாங்க. அப்போ எனக்கு 19 வயசு கேட்டாங்க. வயசு கேட்டு எந்த படியணி என்று கேட்டுட்டு சரி நீங்கள் போங்கன்னு விட்டுட்டாங்க. அதில் எங்கள் 2 பேரை விட்டுட்டாங்க. ஒரு இல்லை இல்லை நாங்கள் சொல்லல, நாங்கள் சொல்கிறோம் இப்போ இருந்தாக்கள் போராட்டத்தில் அங்கே இயக்கத்தில் இருந்தாக்கள் வாங்கன்னு சொல்லிக்க நாங்கள் போய் சரண்டர் ஆகிட்டோம். இருந்த நாங்கள் எந்த படியணின்னு கேட்டாங்க சொன்னான், எத்தனை வயசுன்னு கேட்டாங்க சொன்னான். விட்டுட்டாங்க, நீங்கள் போங்கன்னு விட்டாச்சு. இல்லை 3 பேரில் 2 பேரை விட்டாச்சு, ஒரு ஆளை மறைச்சிட்டாங்க. திரும்ப கேம்புக்கு முகாமுக்கு போயிட்டான். அந்த என்ன ஆனந்தகுமார் சாமி மௌனியா முகாமுக்கு போயிட்டான். முகாமில் வந்து திரும்ப அறிவிக்கிறாங்க. போய் ஒரு 5 நாள் இருக்கு முகாமில். திரும்ப வந்து அங்கே அறிவிச்சு அங்கேயும் போகிறான். அப்போதான் பஸ்ஸில் பின்னேரம் போகணும் எல்லாம் உடுப்போட ரெடியாக இருங்கன்னு அப்புறம் அங்கே இருந்து தான் முகாமுக்கு கொண்டு வந்தது.
She says she wrote letters to Prabhakaran, begging him not to recruit unwilling youth. She does not know if the letters reached him. Even today, she is occasionally questioned by the military. The war followed civilians too. In 1991, Tandikulam marked the border between the LTTE and government forces. Vetrivelaya Pillai was a farmer. He lived in LTTE-controlled Vannivilangulam, but crossed into Vavuniya town for work. At a checkpoint, the LTTE attacked. The army returned fire. Caught in panic, Vetrivelaya Pillai ran into a nearby field. He stepped on a landmine. His right leg was blown off. His family only found out 2 days later. Today, he is 73. His eyes still fill up when he recalls that day. But he continues. With an artificial leg, he cycles to his farm. He grows plantains and sells them in the market.
அது மாதத்துக்கு ஒரு 10,000 தராங்களா? அது
அதுவும் இல்லை,
இல்லை நீங்கள் ரிஜிஸ்டர் ஆகலையா?
எல்லாம் செய்ததும் தெரியல.
For survivors like him, the war has not ended. It has only changed form. Among these stories is one of resolve. Karunanidhi Yasotini is 39 from Nelukkulam. She is a single mother of 2 sons. She joined the LTT at 20, drawn in by its ideals. During the final phase of the war in 2008, she was sent to the front lines. After a battle in Palamuttai, she stepped on a landmine.
நான் ஒரு டின் ஒன்றுக்கு மேலே ஏறின மாதிரி இருந்தது. அப்போ நான் என்னத்துக்கோ மேலே ஏறிட்டேன் என்றது எனக்கு விளங்கிட்டு தான் நான் மைண்ட் சண்டை யோசிக்கல. நான் அடுத்த அடி எடுக்கிறதுக்கு கால் எடுக்கும்போது
She believes it was an LTTE mine, later replanted by the army. Gravely injured, she reached for the cyanide capsule around her neck. It got tangled in her clothes, but her comrades stopped her. She was taken to Kilinochchi Hospital, where her right leg was amputated below the knee. After the war, she received a government job as a development officer.
இப்போ எல்லாம் அந்த என்னென்னு சொல்கிறது, பிள்ளைகளை படிப்பிக்கணும், பிள்ளைகள் நல்ல வழியில் வரணும், அவைகளை நல்லா படிப்பிச்சு நல்ல ஒரு நிலைமை கொண்டு வரணும்ன்ற இது மட்டும்தான் இருக்குது. இப்போ எந்த இது எதுவுமே இல்லை.
Now her purpose is clear. Her children. She spends much of her salary on a good prosthetic leg. Her children do not know how she was injured. She does not tell them. Yasotini is active on social media. She posts photos and models with her artificial leg. She even contested a parliamentary election from Mandi. Her sons sit beside her, watching cartoons, unaware of the weight their mother carries. Landmines are victim-activated weapons. They do not choose sides. Civilians, Tamil fighters, Sinhalese soldiers, everyone is at risk. Sri Lanka's middle generation carries the war in their bodies. Some wounds are visible, some are hidden. Look closely, you will see people limping. Look longer and you will notice plastic and fiberglass limbs. These injuries came from combat. In Sinhala, war veterans are called Ranaviru. Across Sri Lanka are Ranaviru Gama, settlements built for injured soldiers. We visit one in Kurunegala. Here lives Ekanayaka Bandara, a former Gajaba regiment soldier. He was injured by a landmine in 1991. Today, he is president of the Ranaviru Welfare Society.
කියන්නේ අපි ත්‍රිංගමලින් පටන් ගත්තේ. ත්‍රිංගමලින් උපාරු ප්‍රදේශයෙන් ඒ පැත්තෙන් යන්න පුළුවන් මඩකලපුවට. ඉතින් ඒක තමයි අපේ ඔප් එක. මඩකලපුවට අපේ ත්‍රිංග පැත්තෙන් වෙස්සා 1500ක්, මඩකලපුවේ පැත්තා ඒ පැත්තෙන් වයින්නවා 1500ක්. මේ එතකොට වැලිකන්ද පැත්තෙන් එහෙම කොටස් වෙලා බෙදලා එක පැත්තකට අපි මෙහින් ත්‍රිංගම වැස්ස කට්ටිය තමයි අපි. මේක ත්‍රිංගමලේ උපාරු ප්‍රදේශයේදී ඔපරේෂන් ක්‍රියා කරගෙන යනකොට මේ මයින් බට්ටේකට මගේ වම් පාදේ ආවුණා. ඒ වෙලේ එතනින් පස්සේ මම ආවුණා. ඒ කියන්නේ මම සෝල්ජර් හැටියට යන්නේ. මම අවියත් අරගෙන මම ඉස්සරහට යනවා. ඒ කියන්නේ LTT ඉස්සරහ ගහනවා, අපිත් ගහ ඉස්සරහට යනවා. අවබෝධයෙන් කියන්නේ දැන් අපි අවබෝධයෙන් තමයි යන්නේ. කොතන තියෙනවද කොහෙද කියලා අපිට එහෙම අවබෝධයෙන් මයින් පිල් දාලා තියෙනවා කියලා අවබෝධයකින් යනවා. ඉතින් ඒක අපේ වෙලාවට තමයි අහුවෙන්නේ. නැත්තම් එහෙම වෙන්නේ නැහැ. ගොඩක් අහුවෙන අය එහෙම තමයි අහුවෙන්නේ. ඒකල එයාලා දාන තැන් අපිට හොයන්න බෑනේ. මොකද වැලි මිශ්‍ර ප්‍රදේශනේ තියෙන හොයන්න බෑ. ඉතින් අහුවෙනවා ගලවණේවත් තියෙනවා. මේ ඒවා ගල ඉවත් කරත් යන ඉස්සෙල්ලා යනවනේ කණ්ඩායම ඉවත් කර යන. නමුත් අහුන්නේ නැති ඒවා අපිට අහුවෙනවා. මම 91 අප්‍රේල් පළවෙනිදා පණ 21 තමයි මම අහුන්නේ. ඒ කියන්නේ උප් එකේ යනකොට 20 අප්‍රේල් 21 හරියට අපි යනකොට ජොනි බට්ටි ජොනි බට්ටෙක් මගේ පාදෙට බෑගුණා. බෑගුණාන් පස්සේ එම වැටුණා. සිහිය නැතුන්නේ. සිහිය නැතුණ හොඳ සිහිය තිබ්බා. නැගිටින්න බලනකොට තමයි දැක්කේ කකුල නැහැ කියලා. ඉතින් පස්සේ මම වැටිලා ඊට පස්සේ චොපර් එක ඇවිල්ලා මාව අරන් ගියා.
Ekanayaka joined out of patriotism. Now, he drives a tuk-tuk and lives with his wife in a small house. Walking through the lanes is unsettling. One man without arms runs, balancing a coconut between his elbows. Another plucks flowers for the Buddha's shrine. When he lifts his leg, the prosthetic shows. He limps home with a basket full. In Sri Lanka, the war marked everyone. In front of the president's office, a silent protest continues. Former soldiers sit in wheelchairs. Some have removed their artificial legs and placed them on the pavement. Many are landmine survivors. They lost their limbs for the country. Now they are asking for dignity in return. One may imagine the practice of demining as an adventurous endeavor. That perception is wrong. Humanitarian demining is slow, it is collective and methodical. It may be one of the holiest professions on earth because it does more than clear explosives, it clears fear. Some ask why soldiers and rebels are both called victims of landmines. After all, they chose to fight. The answer lies in the weapon. A landmine does not judge. It does not choose sides. It waits. Anyone who triggers it is a victim, uniform or not. Wars end. Peace is declared. But what we bury in the ground does not forget. Long after flags are lowered and speeches are made, the land remembers.